There's a picture of the White House because the 2024 presidential race is heating up. There's a debate tonight, and our next guest is giving us an inside look about what it's like to live in Washington and be in that building very regularly. We're talking about the Second Lady, Karen Pence. She's the former wife of Vice President Mike Pence.
No, not the former wife.
Oh, current wife of... Yeah, no, sorry. He's the former vice president.
Like, what?
You're the current wife of former vice president. I put the former in the wrong location
Yes.
is what I did there. Okay, so...
We know.
So we're clear. All right. The wife of Mike Pence, former vice president, current Republican presidential candidate.
Yes,
okay.
got it.
He was vice president, of course, during the Trump administration, 2017 to 2021. And Mrs. Pence is out with a new book. It's called When It's Your Turn to Serve, Experiencing God's Grace in His Calling for Your Life. It details her journey as a political spouse, which has been guided by her faith. Karen, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We were just talking in the green room about kind of a central mystery that I think a lot of people have in their minds about the ongoing support for Donald Trump, particularly in the Christian community and in the conservative community. I think a lot of that support goes back to you and your husband in 2016 introducing Donald Trump to that community. Your husband said, "This is a good man. Donald Trump is a good man." Mm-hmm. Do you still feel, with all that's happened, that he's a good man?
Well, it's interesting because you were in Indiana then.
I was.
You covered that, I remember. You know, I never judge whether someone's a good or bad person. But I feel like in 2016, and then once they won the election, they served as conservatives. They governed as conservatives. The Trump-Pence administration was conservative. But I think the president has stepped away from those conservative foundations. And you see it in a lot of the things that he's been saying recently. And so that was kind of the impetus for Mike saying, I think I need to run. I think I need to stand for those things that we did in the Trump-Pence administration because I'm a true conservative, and he's been a conservative forever.
It's interesting that you say that because we have some polling data showing that among Republican voters, they like Donald Trump, but you're right, they don't see him as a true conservative.
Yeah.
And yet they do support him. And that is a lot of support among Christians, evangelicals. And I'm so curious, I know a lot of people are, why does Donald Trump have so much support among the religious right, conservative Christians, when he himself in his public behavior doesn't exactly live in accordance with Christ and the Gospels?
And your values. He seems to be very opposite to many of the values that you talk about in the book.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the race shapes up because I think if people start listening to the things that he's saying, they'll start to kind of question, well, wait a minute, that's not what you said 4 or 5 years ago.
But he's out there. He's a pretty public guy.
I
mean,
know.
Why aren't people seeing it currently?
Well, I think that's our job then. That's our job tonight at the debate. That's Mike's job to get his message out, and that's one of the reasons we're here today and talking to you guys.
Well, your book, When It's Your Turn to Serve, Experiencing God's Grace in His Calling for Your Life, you start out by saying this is not a political book, this is not a memoir, it's something that you want, and you're very specific about what you want readers to get out of this book, and what is that?
You know, Gayle, I want people to be encouraged. So when the reader reads this and sees some of the fun little behind-the-scenes stories, I hope they're inspired to serve when they feel that calling. You know, if I had said no to a lot of the things that came my way, I would have missed out on so much. So I tell a lot of stories about the initiatives we had as Second Lady and First Lady of Indiana.
You talk about how you and Mike Pence met. He came to you and wanted to be in your guitar group. That sounds like a good pickup line to me.
Yeah, I was like, the first thing you said to me was a lie. Hey, what's that about? But no, he could have followed it up, though. He actually, I found out he is a guitar player.
The thing that struck me about the book, because, of course, many people would want to hear your take on January 6th, because that picture of you, Karen, standing in the room and you're at the curtains.
Closing the curtains.
You're closing the curtains.
And your family's in there.
Exactly. Yeah. There was only a page and a half on January 6th. I'm assuming that was a deliberate choice on your part. Why?
Well, it was intentional. Mike talks about January 6th extensively in his book.
I know, but that's not your perspective.
Right.
I mean...
And my perspective, I'm really glad you asked that, Gayle, because from my perspective, it kind of goes along with the book. At that moment, we didn't feel fear.
You didn't feel fear?
We did not feel afraid. I felt such a sense of calm and peace. Yes, I shut the curtains because we always are aware of windows, you know, when you're in a public position. But at that moment, it's like the whole team had this sense of purpose. Like, okay, we can't worry about everything else that's going on right now. We need to get us back in session. We need to finish our job. We need to certify this
But
election.
you had been hustled out of there like your hair was on fire. I
We
mean,
were, and I tell you, that
it was
a
terrifying
humbling-
watching from my kitchen table. I'm
Yeah.
surprised to hear you say
Yeah.
you didn't feel fear.
It's humbling. It's a humbling thing to have someone
Do you feel
protecting you.
It is a humbling
Yeah.
thing. Do you feel fear now for the country, direction of the country, the state of the country?
I think most Americans do. I mean, I think we're all kind of looking at a lot of things that are going on in our country right now, and people are afraid, first of all, for their, paying their bills, getting a mortgage, the border.
This is the thing. Of course, you're voting for Mike Pence, but if Mike Pence is not the nominee, do you think Donald Trump should be back in the White House, knowing what you know and what you know about the man and the work that you did together?
I don't think anybody who puts himself above the Constitution should ever be president of the United States. Yeah.
Okay. The cover of the book has a bee and a flower.
Yeah.
She can
What
she
does
can
that
paint.
mean?
She can paint watercolor.
Yeah, your watercolors are. Yeah, that's. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
To me. They're beautiful.
They're absolutely gorgeous.
But this means something. The bee and the flower.
The bee does mean something, because when I was First Lady of Indiana, we started a beehive at the governor's residence. And the first thing I asked when I became Second Lady was, do we have bees at the Vice President's residence? So we started a beehive, and everywhere we went as Second Lady around the world, we would go visit the beehives.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
I was not surprised to learn that you memorized poetry as a kid.
Yes.
Because you have a natural rhythm with language. The book is serene. It's clear. I think it'll give a lot of people a sense of calm in an otherwise tumultuous period here in our politics. So, Karen, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you
And she
so
rides
much.
motorcycles and flies planes. Just saying.
When it's your turn to serve, available now wherever you get your books.